News Radio 700 WLW.
This is something I've heard talked about before, but hey, man, could be very serious. We're talking in the next 10 years.
Yeah, and we're talking about doctor shortages. And look, especially concerning as people are, statistically are living a little bit longer and you're needing more care from doctors. And there's a lot of doctors that are, retiring early because they're fed up with this and that. It's a real problem.
Well, let's talk to our expert about it. She is a medical expert. She's a certified invasive cardiologist. She is our good friend, Dr. Fahmi Farah. Doctor, welcome back to the program.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be back on your program. So
Doc, you heard us talking there. How real is it with, because I understand my doctor, he's very, the paperwork they have to put in, and he's frustrated by all that. And just the burnout factor is got to be huge for you all.
It really is. And over the years, it has gotten just worse and worse and worse, and not much is being done about it. So it's a huge problem, especially among young physicians who come in, after years of practice, and when they see the pressure and without much protection, it's very disheartening.
So what is it about the newer doctors that are coming in? I imagine doctors face pressure since the beginning of doctors, right? Why can't the younger folks take it as much as maybe the older generation? Is there anything else at play?
I think so. I do think there's more than one factor that's affecting our young doctors. The whole role of physicians have changed in many ways. In the past, this is before many generations ago, before even my time, doctors were really respected and trusted individuals, both by hospital systems as well as by physicians. Doctors had one role, and that was patient care. They were not burdened by the hospitals to create more revenue for the hospital. That was not necessarily put on doctors. They were left alone to really take care of the patients more. It was more patient-centric. And that's what doctors signed up for when they go to medical school. So that's one disappointment when young physicians are graduating and completely disillusioned by the system when they're actually practicing because of the pressure they're having to put in more and more hours. Their lifestyle significantly suffers, so that financial burden is definitely a source of burnout. On the other hand, patients, in the past, patients used to really respect their physicians and trust them, and they treated them at a whole different level of respect. Yeah. And as a result, the patient-physician relationship was really more of a sacred relationship. It was a very nice relationship for both sides. I think that has changed dramatically over the years, and the demands of patients have gotten very different, with social media, with information that's online. There's just a lot of mistrust from the opposite side, and so that affects the physician morale quite a bit.
And I have to imagine one of the things doctors deal with, and I know this has got to be frustrating, is a patient comes in and says, well, hey, I got this, but I read on the internet that this and that, or this doctor on my TikTok that I follow said this. That's got to be kind of frustrating, correct?
It is. And, like the newer generation physicians, we are well-versed in that because we want our patients to be well-educated, self-educating themselves. That's not the issue. The issue is the online system. The information they're getting is not filtered. And so they're getting anything and everything. Some information is correct and from a good source, but a lot of information is not. And they're getting medical advice from TikTok, for example, that's not a medical professional at all. And when they're getting that information, that's getting stuck in their head. And when they're coming in and hearing something completely different from their physicians, that's creating a barrier of, trust issue. And a physician, as busy as they are, when they're having to sit there and convince the patient, hey, that's not correct, this is, it's a lot on the physician, on top of the administration burden of having to generate more for the hospital system and see more patients. Now they have to spend that extra time trying to convince the patients, no, the information you got is not in fact correct. I'm trying to be your best advocate here. So I think that adds a lot to the physician's burnout.
We're talking to Dr. Fahmi Farah, and one of the things that I saw, and I've seen, I never saw the exact figures, but I heard this was coming. But it's predicted a shortage of up to 86,000 doctors by the year 2036. Wow. How are they going to address that kind of a thing?
It is very concerning, and I believe that statistic because I see it, like, among my colleagues, like, people are so burned out. Our physicians, they can't handle it anymore just because they're like put in a pressure cooker by the system on one hand, and by this outrageous, like social media stuff that's going on, and giving wrong information to the patients, and then that burden coming on the physicians. To be honest with you, I don't know how the system, how the society, how our country as a whole is going to address that, because that's a big problem when you're losing medical experts that you depend on and rely on with the accurate amount of knowledge to take care of the population.
And again, we've discussed this, but a lot of the extra things the doctors got to do in the paperwork. How did we get here? Is it court cases that more and more doctors and hospitals get taken to court, so they had to add, okay, this level of protection and that level of protection and this paperwork and this disclaimer, that kind of thing?
It is. You brought up a very good point. I didn't even address that. That's the other reason why burnout is so high, is because so now a physician is not only are they having to treat the patient, that's their primary reason why they went to school, but now they're having to play the role of a financier, so to speak, because they're having to worry about how much the hospital is going to make. So they're having to churn out as many hours as they can. On top of that, the patient burden that we just talked about. But a third angle is what you just mentioned, documentation, like all that documentation. So they're actually having to play a legal role in the system as well, by almost trying to be a lawyer, by learning the language and taking care of everything and documenting everything in case there's litigation. So yes, I believe physicians need to be protected from all these different sides, like, hey, protect the physician from getting sued for unnecessary reasons. Of course, accountability needs to be there for good medical practice, but I think it's the scale has gone way too far to the other side.
Yeah, and also you said something earlier, Doctor, about hospitals. Hospitals are a business now. It's not about patient care. It's about making money for shareholders. Is that not true?
I can't deny that. Because physicians really have become victims of the system,
sure.
And I don't think most people realize that. They're the front line, and whenever patients are frustrated with giant bill, guess who gets blamed for it? The physicians do. And the physician, unfortunately, has nothing whatsoever to do with that. And so they get blamed from all ends, and it's just an unpleasant environment, an unhealthy environment. And after so many years of doing that, no one can sustain that. So we've, as a whole, created this unsustainable place for physicians where literally the best analogy I can give you is they're literally in a pressure cooker all day. And so when they go home, everything else suffers too. Their personal life is suffering. If you look at divorce rate among physicians, it's super high. And so they're really suffering from all ends. And I'm so glad that we're talking about this, because I feel like we need to raise awareness as a whole, because something needs to be done so that we're not out of physicians.
All right. Well, Dr. Fahmi Farah, we appreciate it. Always our pleasure. Thanks so much.
You're very welcome.